If you do not find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. I have said this many times. People print it on t-shirts, they put it on coffee mugs, they share it on social media with a sunset photo behind it. But I do not think most people actually understand what I am saying. This is not inspiration. This is not a motivational quote for a Monday morning. This is a mathematical warning. And if you do not take it seriously, you will spend the most valuable hours of your life building someone else's dream while yours quietly disappears. Let me tell you something I observed long before the press conferences and the shareholder letters. I watched people, good people, smart people, hardworking people. I walk into the same trap every single morning. They woke up, got dressed, drove to a building, sat there for 8 or 10 hours, came home exhausted, and then did it again the next day and the day after that for 30 years. And at the end of those 30 years, many of them had nothing to show for it except a resume and a body that was running out of time. I watched this and I asked myself one question: why? Why does this keep happening to intelligent people? The answer changed everything I ever believed about money. You are currently selling the only asset you cannot get back. Not your money, not your house, not your car, your time. Every morning you wake up, you have exactly 24 units of inventory on your shelf. Once those 24 units are gone, they are gone forever. No refund, no restock, no second shift. And most people spend the best 8 to 10 of those units handing them to someone else in exchange for a certificate of value called a paycheck. They think this is normal. They think this is how the world works. But I want to tell you something uncomfortable. In the world of the truly wealthy, this behavior is not admired. It is not respected. It is considered a tragedy. Here is why. Your income as an employee has a ceiling. You can become a doctor. You can become a lawyer. You can charge $1,000 an hour and sit at the most prestigious desk in the building. But the moment you stop moving, the money stops. The machine turns off. You are still just a highly paid laborer. And the most dangerous word in that sentence is not highly paid, it is laborer. Because a laborer without labor has nothing. And one day, whether by choice or by force, every laborer stops. Now, I want you to understand where this mindset comes from, because it did not arrive by accident. Think about your school years. What were you actually trained to do? You were trained to sit still for 8 hours without complaint. You were trained to memorize instructions and repeat them back on command. You were trained to raise your hand and ask permission to speak. You were trained above all else to fear failure, to color inside the lines, to follow the rubric, to never deviate from what the authority figure in front of the room told you was correct. These are not the skills of an owner. These are the skills of a compliant, predictable, replaceable worker, and that is exactly what the system needed you to become. The school system was designed in the Prussian era to produce soldiers and factory workers. It was never designed to produce capitalists. It does not teach you how to read a balance sheet. It does not teach you how to identify a competitive advantage or how to build a system that generates income without your presence. It teaches you one thing with extraordinary efficiency: how to be a specialized part in a machine that someone else owns. And when you graduate, diploma in hand, the system hands you the final piece of the trap. It is called a salary. And most people accept it with gratitude, never realizing it is also a leash. Nassim Taleb once said that the 3 most harmful addictions are heroin, carbohydrates, and a monthly salary. He was right. A salary is a drug. It is a steady drip of morphine that numbs your ambition one payday at a time. It gives you the illusion of safety. You know exactly how much is coming in on the 15th of the month, and that predictability feels good. It feels secure. But here is what that security is slowly destroying: your ability to hunt. In the wild, a wolf does not know when its next meal is coming. So it stays sharp, it stays hungry. It reads the environment constantly. A dog in a cage knows exactly when the bowl will be filled. So it sleeps, it gets comfortable, it loses its instincts entirely. Most people are domesticated dogs living in a cage made of gold. They have traded their freedom for a predictable bowl of food. And the tragedy is not that the cage exists. The tragedy is that they decorated it and called it a career. But here is what keeps me up at night when I think about this. The owner of that cage can stop feeding you at any moment. I have watched this happen in every recession. I have watched loyal employees, people who gave 30 years of their lives to a single company, get let go at 55 years old with nothing but a severance package and a handshake. No assets, no systems, no income that does not require their physical presence. All they had was a resume that said they were very good at following instructions, and suddenly nobody wanted to give them instructions anymore. This is the hidden cost of selling time. It works until it does not. And when it stops working, the fall is catastrophic. So let me now tell you how the mathematics of this trap actually works, because the game is rigged, but not the way most people think. It is not rigged by corruption or conspiracy. It is rigged by math. And once you see the math, you cannot unsee it. The first mechanism is the tax penalty. Look at the tax code of any major economy, and you will find a very clear message written between the lines. The government wants you to be an investor. It does not want you to be a worker. When you earn a salary, you pay the highest possible tax rate: income tax, payroll tax, Social Security contributions. Before that money ever reaches your account, the government has already taken 30 to 40%. Now look at how I make my money: through capital gains, through dividends. I sit in a chair, I allocate capital, and the government taxes me at a rate sometimes half of what a salaried worker pays. I have said publicly that my secretary pays a higher effective tax rate than I do. People were angry when I said that. They thought I was boasting. I was not boasting. I was confessing. I was telling you the rules of the game as they actually are. If you sell your time, you are penalized. If you deploy your capital, you are subsidized. The system is not neutral. It was written by owners for owners. The second mechanism is the inflation lag. This is the silent killer that nobody talks about at the dinner table. When the government prints money, prices rise. We all know this. But here is what most people do not understand. Prices do not rise for everyone at the same time. Asset prices rise first. The stock market climbs. Real estate appreciates. The people who own things get richer immediately. Then consumer prices rise. Bread costs more. Gas costs more. And do you know what rises last? Your wages. Economists call wages sticky. Your employer does not wake up one morning and voluntarily give you a raise because inflation went up 8%. He waits. He waits a year, sometimes two. By the time you receive your 3% raise, you have already lost 10% of your purchasing power. You are running a race where the finish line moves away from you faster than your legs can carry you. As long as you're selling time, you're always on the losing side of this equation. Owners are on the winning side. They own the assets that are repricing upward. The third mechanism is the most damning of all: linear versus exponential. Selling time is linear mathematics. 1 hour equals 1 unit of income. 10 hours equals 10 units. If you want to double your earnings, you must double your hours. But there is a hard physical ceiling. You cannot work 25 hours a day. Your income is mathematically capped by your biology. Wealth, on the other hand, is exponential. Coca-Cola sells millions of cans every single day, whether I get out of bed or not. Apple moves products across every continent while I am reading at home in Omaha. My income is not tied to my effort. It is tied to the efficiency of the systems I own. A doctor is brilliant, but linear. The moment his hands stop moving, his income hits zero. A medical software company is exponential. It bills patients while the founder sleeps on a beach. You must make this shift from selling hours to owning outcomes, from linear to exponential. If you do not make this shift, you will always be one bad diagnosis, one layoff, one economic downturn away from starting over. Now, I need to ask you the harder question. If selling time is mathematically a losing game, Stow, and I have just shown you that it is, why do 99% of people keep playing it? The answer is not logic. It is biology. It is the psychology of the paycheck. When you receive a salary every 2 weeks, it triggers a dopamine response in your brain. It tells your nervous system, you are safe, you are fed, you do not need to hunt today. Over time, your entire life restructures itself around that drip. You buy a home that requires that drip. You buy a car that requires that drip. You accumulate a lifestyle that is entirely dependent on that drip, continuing without interruption. And then you become terrified of the silence between checks. This is not ambition. This is addiction. The employer is the dealer, giving you just enough to keep you coming back, but never quite enough to set you free. If I handed you $5 million right now, you would resign tomorrow. That fact alone proves you do not love the job. You are dependent on the drip. There is a second psychological trap that is even more insidious. I call it the busy badge. Ask any employee how they are doing, and they will tell you they are swamped, overwhelmed, buried, and they will say it with pride, as though exhaustion is a form of achievement. In my world, being perpetually busy is not a sign of success. It is a sign of poor thinking. Look at my calendar. There are days with nothing scheduled at all. Charlie Munger's calendar looked the same way for decades. We were not lazy. We were thinking. The employee mindset believes that activity equals productivity. The owner mindset knows that thinking equals value. If you spend every hour chopping wood, you will never have time to design a chainsaw. And then there is the golden handcuff, the title. Corporations are masterful at this particular manipulation. They know they cannot pay you what you are truly worth, or their margins would collapse. So they pay you in something that costs them nothing: status, vice president, senior director, regional manager. These titles are printed on business cards and placed on LinkedIn profiles, and they mean everything to the ego and nothing to the balance sheet. I have watched people stay in jobs that were slowly destroying them simply because they did not want to surrender the title. They valued the applause of the crowd more than their own freedom. When I walked away from my investment partnership in the 1960s, people thought I had lost my mind. I was leaving prestige. I was leaving recognition, but I did not care about the outer scorecard. I cared about the inner one. I knew that if I wanted to build something real, I had to disappear from the spotlight and focus entirely on the compounding. So how do you break out? I am not telling you to quit your job tomorrow. That would be reckless. What I am telling you is that you must quit the mindset today. Stop seeing yourself as a worker who performs tasks for an employer. Start seeing yourself as a business that is currently selling its services to a single client. That shift in perspective sounds small. It is not small. It is the difference between a lifetime of quiet desperation and a life built entirely on your own terms. Your job right now is your first investor. It provides the cash flow that funds your exit. But from this point forward, the hours between Friday night and Monday morning belong entirely to you. That is when you build, you research investments, you develop a skill the market will pay for. You create something that can generate income without requiring your physical presence: code, content, a system, a small business. You do this patiently, consistently, without announcing it to anyone, until the income from what you have built exceeds the expenses of your current life. That is escape velocity. The moment you reach it, everything changes. You walk into the office differently. You are not there because you must be. You are there because you choose to be. And there is no negotiating position more powerful in the world than genuine willingness to walk away. One final warning: as you begin to build your exit, the system will notice. Your employer will offer you a promotion, more money, a bigger title, a corner office. You must see this clearly for what it is. It is not a reward. It is a retention tool. They are paying you slightly more to consume slightly more of your time and mental energy, specifically to prevent you from finishing what you started. I have watched brilliant people climb corporate ladders for 20 years only to reach the top and realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall the entire time. I want you to imagine yourself at 90 years old, sitting on a porch, looking back. The question is not whether you worked hard. Almost everyone works hard. The question is what you built with that work. Did you build your own life? Or did you spend 40 years making someone else's life extraordinary while your own potential sat untouched? Time is the only resource I cannot buy back. I have more money than I could ever spend, and I cannot purchase a single yesterday. But you have something I cannot give you and cannot take from you. You have today. You have this moment. The door to the cage has always been open. It was open yesterday. It is open right now. The only question that has ever mattered is whether you are brave enough to walk through it.